You know, Russell, I enjoy the scene in the film where you're eating shrimp in the Japanese restaurant.
It's actually unagi.
Okay. You know, I've always liked eating on the sets of films, and I'm just wondering, do you have a special empathy for caterers on movie sets?
Well, I do actually, because my parents were caterers right at in the late 60s, early 70s. That's how I first started working in TV or in front of a camera. Because my parents were caterers, my grandfather was a cinematographer. It's kind of like third generation in the business, but I'm the first one stupid enough to stand in front of the camera.
Didn't, very briefly, when you were a teenager, weren't you kind of a singing star in Australia?
I definitely wasn't a singing star, and it wasn't in Australia. It was in New Zealand. I released a couple of records. But, you know, they rocketed straight to the bottom of the charts with a bullet, or half a dozen bullets. And I probably account for 2 or 3 of the worst recordings in the history of the New Zealand music industry, and it's a very strong industry. So to have that hat on my shoulders is not a very good thing. Yeah.
Now, I spoke to Arnold Schwarzenegger when he did Terminator 2 about his nude scene at the beginning of that film. And I'm just wondering, you do a small nude scene in this film. How does the crew treat you on the day you're shooting a scene like that?
Oh, they come up and slap you on the bum, and they try and put, like, you know, dollar notes in the various I think everybody just gets on with it and, you know, doesn't worry too much about it, you know. And the thing is, it always looks kind of a lot less than it really is. I mean, sometimes you can be walking around for days, you know, just to get 10, 20 seconds of, you know, footage in a movie. But, yeah, I mean, it's not something that I really enjoy doing, but, you know, he was just born, so there is a point.
You know, I just finished a story on what happens to screen villains when they go out in public and the adverse reactions they get from people. Are you a little concerned how people are going to react to you when this movie comes out?
No, I don't. You know, I don't really walk around looking like Sid, so I think it's a bit. It's not really going to be that much of a problem. Plus, I think, you know, people as vicious and evil and stuff as Sid is, I think people really enjoy spending time with it. You know, vicariously live through his breadth. You know what I mean?
I was reading an old interview with Harrison Ford when he talked about shooting Star Wars, and he said it was a very frustrating time for the actors because they had a hard time envisioning how the special effects were going to look. Is that something that you could identify with this movie?
Well, I certainly didn't know how they were going to look, but it's not really a difficult thing to fill your imagination with what's going to go on, you know. And working in cinema, you tend to do a lot of stuff where it's only you and the camera anyway, you know. So working with blue screen and you know, grabbing a rose out of the air and stuff is really a big deal. You know, I mean, you just put it in, you drive your characters from within you anyway. It's got nothing to do with the outside forces, you know. So, you know, and if you start trying to get your character from outside you, you're just going to have a little bit of trouble. So you just sort of lock in and start imagining things. And there's one scene there when I'm inside the machine where I create the sky and the earth and the sun and stuff, you know, and that's well within my range as a performer.
One really quick question. The trailer is a great, the way it starts with the Saturday Night Fever music. When you were doing that scene, that walk, did you know at that time that you were going to
no, that was an idea of mine and Brett, because the scene prior to it ends with, my God, he's evolving into what, you know, and we were sort of laughing about it. I mean, you know, we spent a lot of time going through the various clothes choices as well for Sid, and we actually had that playing, you know, through speakers on the day while I was doing the walk. So that was kind of like, it was actually, once we decided, the hardest thing was getting the powers that be to pay for the rights to use the song.